In 2023, I wrote a long list of spectacular roller coasters. We're talking roller coasters I've loved for years, brand new roller coasters that completely wowed me, and roller coasters I've grown a new appreciation for. While I didn't travel as much in 2023 as I have in previous years, I still managed to visit several different theme parks. I also reflected on the coasters I haven't ridden in a few years to reevaluate them, and in doing so, I've changed up my list of top 25 roller coasters. These are all roller coasters that I've ridden, and they can be found across a total of 5 different countries and 3 different continents. Now, if my list of top roller coasters differs from yours, that's to be expected. If you know the exact science behind ranking roller coasters, please let me know how that works. My list is based off the amount of fun I have on each coaster and how impressive I find them overall. We'll be seeing coasters both big, small, intense, and gentle. So if my list triggers you, instead of reporting my channel, drop a comment below on what your favorite roller coasters are and let's get a discussion going. Without further ado, let's dive into my top 25 roller coasters. Kicking things off at number 25, we have the intense and unique Mr. Freeze at Six Flags Over Texas. This launching shuttle coaster built by Premier Rides packs a punch. The valleys between its ride elements are tight, subjecting riders to very high positive G-forces, especially on the second lap when you are launched down the vertical spike into what I find to be one of the most intense moments on any coaster. A crushing pullout into a tight overbank turn, slamming you with positive G-forces. The upside down top hat features good airtime and laterals on the ascent and descent of both laps, and hanging upside down while looking through the cool support structures icing on the cake. When I last rode in 2019, the only option was to be launched out of the station backwards, leading to an awesome ascent up the vertical spike facing down at the ground. But now riders have the option of launching forwards or backwards thanks to the neat sliding station tracks. I'm curious how the experience is the other way around and if a forward ride would affect my overall ranking. At number 24, we'll have to travel around the world where we find Fujiyama at Fuji-Q Highland in Japan. Built in 1996 by the infamous manufacturer Togo, Fujiyama pays tribute to the nearby Mount Fuji. This roller coaster is incredibly tall, has a good amount of jank to it but not too much, and features many great moments of floater airtime. But my favorite part about this coaster is that it feels like it never ends. With over 6,700 feet of track, the ride takes 95 seconds from when you head down the first drop to when you enter the final brake run. And that's without the interruption of a second lift hill or mid-course brake run. The long layout is packed with long drops filled with floater airtime. This awesome 90-degree bank turn at ground level, and these ending janky turns with airtime pops thrown in. The ride's brake run is even placed high in the air, meaning this coaster could have been even longer. Paired with just a lap bar, this is one of my favorite coaster experiences. Just know that if you're a fan of an ultra intense coaster, this isn't that. It's more of a long floaty dream. Next up at number 23, let's travel back to the United States for RailBlazer at California's Great America. This single rail coaster built by Rocky Mountain Construction or RMC is quite the opposite of Fujiyama. It's small in height, short in length, and ultra intense. The tiny 8-car trains absolutely haul through the layout, making all the ride elements feel like a singular never-ending maneuver. As the train hauls through the ride course, you'll find insane moments of ejector airtime that pin you up against the restraint. You'll weave over and under different parts of the ride, and even the small first drop is mental, especially in the back rows. The crazy part is that RailBlazer is considered tamer than Wonder Woman at Six Flags Fiesta Texas, which is an identical mirror image to RailBlazer. I've never ridden Wonder Woman as it was closed on my first visit to Fiesta Texas in 2019, but it's hard to imagine an even more insane experience than RailBlazer. At number 22, we have another contrasting experience to RailBlazer, Millennium Forest at Cedar Point. Built by Intamin Amusement Rides, it has one of the best first drops in the world and offers one of the best graceful high-speed sensations through its nearly 6,600 feet of track. Unlike what many claim, I've always found plenty of floater airtime on the ride's 2 large camelbacks. Like Fujiyama, Millennium Forest is not really an intense roller coaster, although it can sustain more positive G-forces on hot summer days when it cycles the track in less than 60 seconds. But even with a similar track length to Fujiyama, its ride duration is over 30 seconds shorter, and it has a much smaller list of ride elements. However, I find that Millennium offers a magic to it that not many coasters do. You also can't beat the incredible open-air trains and minimalist T-bar restraints. I always say that Millennium is objectively not the best coaster at Cedar Point, but at heart, it's my favorite on the peninsula. Hopefully, Cedar Point can make the operation of Millennium stellar again. Watching their flagship ride operate at 700 riders per hour is just painful. At number 21, let's trek into the woods of Connecticut for Boulder Dash at Lake Compounce. This wooden terrain coaster built by Custom Coasters International or CCI is completely unique in that it's built into the hillside of a small mountain. The coaster hugs the hillside as it charges over endless floater airtime hills, races through unbanked turns offering amazing moments of laterals, and even dashes over large boulders sitting on the hillside, hence the coaster's name. Since opening in 2000, Boulder Dash has won many awards, and it's pretty clear why. This is quite the unique wooden roller coaster. Now, I haven't ridden Boulder Dash since the ride's first drop was retracked with steel Titan track by Great Coasters International, or GCI, and I hear rumors that more Titan track may be on the way to other portions of the coaster. I've never experienced Titan track, so I'm not sure how I feel about that, so I'll be sure to get more rides on this coaster while it's still mainly wooden. Before we discuss why Time Warp at Canada's Wonderland is my 20th favorite roller coaster, let me tell you about our video sponsor, Vessie, who make my favorite shoes to wear at theme parks. Vessies are super lightweight and ultra supportive, making them perfect for walking around all day in a theme park. Even better, they're also waterproof, meaning you can show up to a park on a rainy day when crowds are at their lightest and skip the waits, all while your socks remain dry all day. I'm currently rocking the Vessie Sohos on a regular basis. They feature all the amazing qualities I just mentioned and come in a sweet vegan leather finish. Vessie also has many other shoes in their product line that are perfect for different occasions, like the Alta high tops, which are perfect for walking in the snow. Better yet, Vessie also makes amazing accessories like the waterproof overcast jacket, as well as these knit waterproof gloves. Not only are these gloves 100% waterproof, but they're also stretchy. They keep your hands warm thanks to an insulation lining inside and are touchscreen compatible, allowing you to easily navigate YouTube and catch up on your favorite Block Zone content while waiting in line for a coaster. Head on over to vessie.com/AltoroRyan to check out their awesome styles and get 15% off your first order. On second thought, I just remembered that Time Warp is much higher on my list. My real number 20 is the famed Phantom's Revenge at Kennywood in Pennsylvania. This once massive aero looping roller coaster has been turned into an absolute airtime machine that takes full advantage of the unique terrain it sits on. It's one of the few coasters where the second drop is much larger than the first, and as large as the terrain coaster is, it primarily consists of low to the ground bunny hops that trains hardly slow down for, sending riders flying from their seats into the oh so amazing lap bar restraints that allow for ample airtime. While the ride is rather short in duration, it makes up for that in many ways. You start off with a slow and vintage aerodynamics lift hill that leads into a classic aerodynamics curving drop, only to have the ride go mental after the second drop. Morgan Manufacturing really knocked it out of the park when they removed the inversions of the old steel Phantom. Now, is this the best roller coaster in the state of Pennsylvania? Keep watching the video to find out. At number 19, we have another epic terrain coaster, and that is the troubling Lightning Rod at Dollywood. This ride has quite the problematic history, opening as an all-top retract wood coaster to then be primarily retracked with all steel track a few years later. And now the iconic launched lift hill will also be replaced with a chain lift for the 2024 season. But regardless of all the problems and changes, when Lightning Rod is open and operating, it provides one of the best coaster experiences out there. From the perfect use of its hilly terrain to its massive floaty opening maneuvers, the ride experience just seems to get more and more intense the further into the layout you venture. The ride intensity kicks up with this twist and shout, and after that, it's non-stop pops of ejector airtime, including the famous quad down. I love that the train just gains more and more speed and then slams into the final brake run. I do find the launch lift hill to be a great part of the experience, so hopefully the introduction of a fast chain lift doesn't hinder the experience too much. Next up at number 18 is another RMC coaster, and that is Twisted Timbers at King's Dominion. Of the smaller sized RMC coasters I've ridden, this is easily my favorite. This reincarnation of the original Hurler wooden roller coaster features an endless sea of ejector airtime hills, with a good mix of longer sustained moments of ejector airtime that can be a bit more rare with RMC coasters, as the company tends to focus more on quick pops of strong airtime. I love the barrel roll down drop and 3 back-to-back airtime hills at the start of the ride. Like Lightning Rod, Twisted Timbers seems to get more intense as you journey further into the layout, with the airtime pops becoming closer together and much stronger. Some of the airtime moments can even be too much, but I absolutely love that about this coaster. Plus, the ride has a pretty good duration from first drop to final brake run, especially considering that the lift hill is only 111 feet tall. In March of this year, I took the 5-hour drive to King's Dominion, and after just a single ride on Twisted Timbers, I felt like my entire drive there was already worth it. That's how you know this is an epic roller coaster. At number 17 is easily one of the most intense coaster experiences I know of, and that is Skyrush at Hershey Park. From its crazy wing seating to the ultra-fast cable lift hill, the insanely steep first drop with its absurd kink partway down the drop leading to a second surge of of airtime, and the other crazy moments of ejector airtime that follow. The ride is far more intense than what Hershey Park desired, and that is perfectly fine by me. The ride's next tallest hill is less than half the height of the 200-foot tall lift hill, meaning the train basically never slows down until the track profiling tames down on the approach to the final brake run. Trains absolutely haul over the low to the ground hills, delivering pretty lethal doses of negative g-forces that fling you into your restraint. And in between the hills are high-speed turnarounds that rattle as you experience high positive g-forces. The only downsides with this coaster is that it's rather short in duration and the lap bar restraints are downright awful. But hopefully the rumors are true and Skyrush reopens in 2024 with the newer generation lap bars found on Intamin's latest roller coasters. Now, is this my personal favorite roller coaster in the state of Pennsylvania? Stay tuned. Next up at 16 is the Gargantuan Fury 325 at Carowinds near Charlotte, North Carolina. This support cracker is one of the most picturesque roller coasters out there, both visually and from a stats perspective. At 325 feet tall with a 318-foot drop, a top speed of 95 miles per hour, and 6,602 feet of track, these are some of the most impressive roller coaster stats in the theme park industry. And the ride experience is also one of the best, from the coaster's endless first drop to the twisty outbound section of track that weaves over the entrance pathways into the park, leading into the airtime driven finale that delivers some of the strongest airtime moments you'll find on any roller coaster built by Bolliger and Mabillard or B&M. The entire coaster has an amazing sensation of speed to it that I find a league above the similar sensation found on Millennium Forest, and the ride does so while featuring a much more interesting layout and combination of ride elements compared to Millennium Forest. The only mildly tame section is this long drawn out helix, but even this isn't all that bad and helps extend the ride's incredible duration. Without question, I can easily see why many rank this coaster even higher than I do. But is this my personal favorite B&M coaster? It's not actually, at least this year. My favorite B&M is actually Flying Dinosaur at Universal Studios Japan in Osaka. This flying roller coaster is the absolute best adaptation of this ride model that I've ever ridden, although I still need to ride Fly at Fantasioland. Unlike B&M's earlier flying roller coasters such as the 3 Superman Ultimate Flights or even Tatsu, Flying Dinosaur is intense all the way through. It exhibits forces I've never felt on other flying roller coasters, like several moments of airtime that can be found on its rather steep drop, both ends of its pretzel loop, and the speed hill midway through the ride, as well as strong positive g-forces while you are in the flying position and not on your back, leaving you pinned to your vest restraint as you realize that is the only thing keeping you in your seat. The ride essentially features 2 pretzel loops back to back, thanks to this ridiculous 540-degree roll that leaves you on your back as you ascend a large Raven turn. Even this helix towards the end of the ride leaves you pinned against the restraint the entire time, which feels completely bizarre in a flying roller coaster. If you do get the opportunity to ride Flying Dinosaur, I wish you luck with its ridiculous line. Next up at number 14 is Ghost Rider at Knott's Berry Farm. Originally built by CCI, the spectacular wooden roller coaster was beautifully redone by GCI in 2016, and has ridden glossy smooth and relentless ever since. Now, I never rode the coaster before the remodel, but love it for all it is in its current state. Ghost Rider has one of the best ride durations out there at about 1 minute and 20 seconds from first drop to final brake run. It doesn't have the most spectacular first drop, but it's one of those coasters that gets better the further you venture into the layout. The opening hills are fun with sustained floater airtime and decent lateral forces, but the excitement really picks up with this drop next to the lift hill. It delivers a solid punch of airtime, followed by several low to the ground airtime hills with laterals, all contained within the structure of the ride. And that's the theme with the ride's ending. The insanity continues into the ride's ending helix that leaves you pinned to the side of your seat. And even after so much track, the ride feels like it hasn't slowed down. The only thing abysmal about the coaster is its low capacity and horrible operations. I'd love to see this ride operated with 3 trains like it would be at a park like Kings Island. Thankfully, my number 13 coaster is at a park with fantastic operations, and that is Outlaw Run at Silver Dollar City. This was RMC's first ground up roller coaster and the first to debut the company's first generation trains, and they knocked it out of the park. Alan Schilke's creative layout through the hills and woods of Missouri is outstanding. From the awesome first drop, low to the ground ejector airtime pops, hill hugging wave turn, and double barrel roll ending, it without a doubt has one of the best sequence of roller coaster elements out there. And something I like about the coaster is that it's not perfectly smooth. At least it wasn't on my last rides on the coaster back in 2019. This top retract wooden roller coaster has a few kinks and bumps to it, and that's something I like with wooden roller coasters as it makes them feel more alive and less perfect. The only major downside with the coaster is that it's short at just over 30 seconds from first drop to final brake run. Luckily, the amazing ride experience makes up for that, and this is a must-ride coaster at nighttime. It's easily one of the best night rides out there. Up next at number 12 is my personal favorite roller coaster in all of Mexico, and that is Superman Superman El Altimo Escape at Six Flags Mexico. I always say that this Morgan hypercoaster was the biggest surprise of a roller coaster experience to me. I was absolutely wowed by the ride's powerful floater and ejector airtime, as well as the powerful lateral forces in both of its helices. My favorite moment is this airtime hill that leads into a helix. Riders in the back cars are lifted from their seats and then thrown sideways at the start of the helix. Then, with no slowing on the mid-course brake run, the ending hills are filled with glorious and sustained moments of airtime. I truly hope I do not overhype this coaster for you, as I had never heard a glowing review of the ride going in. I walked into the coaster expecting a milder ride like Wild Thing at Valley Fair, but got so much more. I cannot wait to get back to Mexico to get back on this amazing roller coaster. At number 11, we have one of the most unreal roller coasters on the planet, and that is Steel Vengeance at Cedar Point. This RMC conversion of the former Mean Streak wooden roller coaster combines just about everything that a coaster lover wants into one ride. It takes the lovable RMC product to the scale of a hypercoaster with endless airtime hills, floaty inversions, and a non-stop ride duration where you take several laps through the same structure. The only thing it's missing are strong lateral forces. Well, there are some in this quick downhill 0G stall, but it's not like the laterals you'll find on Wildcats Revenge at Hershey Park. Either way, this is still a pretty much perfect roller coaster, and it's absolutely deserving of being someone's number one ride. And I can also see why it might not be everyone's cup of tea. At times, I found it a bit repetitive, but I no longer find that the case, and I'm itching to get back on the superstar of an attraction. Also, shouts out to the Steel Vengeance ride crew who continuously crush it with 3-train operations. We love to see it. Kicking off my top 10 coasters, we have one of the hottest new roller coasters, and that is Air Force One at Fun Spot America Atlanta. This is the first RMC coaster that was designed by Joe Draves, and he crushed it. Air Force One features one of the best layouts out there and is non-stop from start to finish. Honestly, its weakest moment is the first drop, and by no means is it a bad first drop. The Raven Truss dive offers incredible floater airtime as you twist through the truss structure. The 0G stall is perfection. The outward banked airtime hill flings you from your seat, as does the double up. The quick barrel roll is absurdly fast, and the low to the ground turn as you chug along at 55 miles per hour is just insane. If you didn't already know, Air Force is a terrain coaster, and this curve is the lowest moment of the ride. This leads into one of the most insane moments on a coaster, a quad down that manages to be far more intense than Lightning Rod's quad down. I've heard many criticize it for being too much, but I happen to really dig it. If you last rode with a loose lap bar, it does execute better with a lap bar properly positioned against your waist. At number 9, we have the legendary Shivering Timbers at Michigan's Adventure, built by CCI in 1998. If you're a lover of sustained floater airtime, this is the ride for you. It's over a mile of non-stop floater airtime hills that seem to repeat forever. There's even great moments of lateral forces, like on the far end turnaround and massive 630-degree ending helix. The ride also paces phenomenally, even though it features nearly 5,400 feet of track off a 122-foot tall lift hill. Every single hill delivers excellent floater airtime. If you're familiar with the Voyage at Holiday World, it's as if you got rid of the twister portions of that coaster and replaced them all with airtime hills. Because of that, I can see some airtime lovers preferring Shivering Timbers to Voyage, even if Shivering Timbers lacks the terrain change found throughout Voyage's layout that makes it epic. Be careful though, last I rode Shivering Timbers, it had 2 quite nasty potholes on the ascent up the first and second camelbacks. Other than that, the ride was actually quite smooth. Next up at number 8, we have my new favorite coaster in the state of Pennsylvania, Wildcats Revenge at Hershey Park. I was a fan of the original wooden Wildcat coaster, but I'm so glad Hershey went with RMC to remodel the coaster in such a big way. Like Air Force One, Wildcats Revenge is a bit more intense than most of RMC's prior coasters. I absolutely love the work Alan Schilke did for RMC, and I love that Joe Draves is taking RMC's coasters to a whole new level. Wildcat becomes noticeably more intense in its second half, and that's for a few reasons. One is the lateral forces experienced on the slightly downhill double down and quick left turn into the final brake run. 2 is that these lateral forces are also experienced with airtime, making the sensations feel insane. And the third reason is a snappy pop of ejector airtime that occurs in the coaster's first barrel roll, especially towards the front of the train. The airtime pops are also quite intense, like the airtime on Air Force's quad down, just more spread out. Wildcats Revenge quickly became my new favorite coaster at Hershey Park and is a coaster I prefer towards the front of the train. At number 7, we have Intimidator 305 at King's Dominion, which is another contender for one of the world's most intense roller coasters. Unlike the other 300-foot giants on this list, like Fury 325 and Millennium Forest, Intimidator 305 is wicked intense. It actually features my least favorite drop compared to Fury and Millennium, but what follows is just pure insanity. You are crushed with positive G-forces in the coaster's first low to the ground curve, often causing me to gray out. Next is an epic moment of sustained ejector airtime, followed by more low to the ground track taken at probably around 80 80 miles per hour as you whip from side to side, experience low to the ground airtime, and take more high-speed turnarounds with high positive G-forces. There is a trim brake midway through the coaster, but that was actually designed into the ride as the coaster still carries insane speed all the way to the end, snapping its way into the final brake run. Like other coasters on this list, the only downfall with Intimidator 305 is that it's rather short in duration. At number 6 is Superman the Ride at Six Flags New England. My rides on this legendary Intamin coaster in July of this year led to probably the biggest climb ever in my coaster rankings. When running properly, Superman is easily my favorite traditional hypercoaster. It's got an incredible ride duration without the interruption of a mid-course brake run or any dead spots, plenty of positive G-forces in the valleys between hills, many moments of strong sustained floater airtime as well as more powerful ejector airtime, and 2 helices in the ride's second half that deliver powerful sustained positive G-forces. There's even a few moments of lateral forces like on the ascent of this hill leading into the Spaghetti Bowl, and on the second helix, probably due to the ride's imperfect track design, which is an interesting quirk with the ride in general. The only downside with Superman is its absolutely awful restraints, but when the ride is running fast, it becomes obvious why the coaster won so many awards in the 2000s. If you're not a fan of Superman because of the U-bricks, I do recommend giving it another try. I found a way to sit in the train that works well for me that isn't super uncomfortable, and I'm sure you can also. Kicking off my top 5 coasters, we have the absolutely epic Voyage at Holiday World. Like many coasters on my list, this is another dream of a roller coaster. It's a mammoth of a ride and basically feels like a hyper coaster with its long opening drop and large opening hills that deliver some awesome moments of sustained floater airtime. The Voyage takes the concept of shivering timbers but makes it bigger, and in my opinion does it even better. Instead of being built on flat terrain, Voyage is built on a hill. So the entire outbound section of track goes uphill, but the entire return run is downhill, meaning the train just gains more and more speed as it heads toward the station. The pacing of the coaster never lets up as it races over low to the ground airtime hills or roars its way through many of the ride's twists and curves. And for a wooden roller coaster, Holiday World does an outstanding job maintaining it, as the ride has honestly felt smoother each year I ride it. And a night ride on the Voyage is just out of this world, especially when the trims are off on the block brake. But even when the trims do hit, the coaster is still superb. At number 4 is Velocicoaster at Universal's Islands of Adventure, which I'd probably consider the world's most perfect roller coaster. Velocicoaster combines the greatest innovations of modern roller coaster technology, the enormous budget of a Universal theme park, and the extraordinary ride experience of an Intamin roller coaster all into one package. The ride's presentation, atmosphere, theming, and pre-show are all great. The ride vehicles are state-of-the-art and extremely open air and comfortable, also allowing for quick operations that help the long line move at a quick pace. The LSM launches aren't as punchy as Intamin's hydraulic launches, but work much more consistently. And I love that the coaster is split into 2 distinct halves, with the first half being slightly less intense and more compact, but still featuring great pops of airtime, and the second half being much larger with crazier ride elements like the Mosasaurus roll that delivers insane upside-down airtime. Overall, the ride has a great duration from start to finish, is rather smooth besides some occasional rattling from the onboard speakers, and is also intense but not too intense that almost all can enjoy it for everything it is. Next up at number 3 is the roller coaster with my absolute favorite airtime moments on the planet, El Toro at Six Flags Great Adventure. This Intamin prefabricated wooden roller coaster delivers 4 ejector airtime moments that I absolutely obsess over, and it does so while being an actual wooden roller coaster. The long trains combined with the steep first drop lead to my favorite first drop anywhere. While Skyrush at Hershey Park has a far more intense first drop, I'd still take El Toro's first drop over Skyrush's all day any day. The following 2 camelbacks deliver my 2 favorite moments of airtime on any roller coaster, as you experience nearly 4 seconds of sustained ejector airtime on each hill. I also love the rest of the ride, such as the high-speed turnaround, this awesome moment of floater airtime in the back of the train, and the ride's ending twister section as you dash left and right. The ride has certainly gotten much rougher over the past few years, and I found the coaster harder to re-ride, but I still don't find the ride nearly as rough as other wooden coasters I've ridden like Hades 360 at Mount Olympus. And the ride isn't consistently intense all the way through, but I happen to love El Toro just as it is. Overtaking El Toro this year, we have the RMC superstar Iron Gwazi at Busch Gardens Tampa. Following my most recent rides on the coaster in May of this year, I realized that Iron Gwazi has my favorite layout, or combination of ride elements on all of the roller coasters I've ridden. And I love how the ginormous coaster is stacked on top of itself with so many crossovers. The outward banked helix of an airtime hill is insane, and the death roll that follows is probably my top 3 ride elements of all time. The more I rode Iron Gwazi, I realized that there isn't a single moment of the coaster that I don't enjoy. And the ride is also intense, but not too intense like Wildcats Revenge or Air Force 1 can be, which means I can re-ride Iron Gwazi with no problem. And finally at number 1, my absolute favorite roller coaster is Time Warp at Canada's Wonderland, which without question was the best roller coaster choice for such a busy amusement park. Hats off to Paramount Parks. Okay, real talk, why the f is that ride at that park? Coming in at number 1 is still Edena at Fuji-Q Highland in Japan. This is unquestionably the most bizarre and intense roller coaster I have ever ridden. If you're a fan of X2 at Six Flags Magic Mountain, you need to book a trip to ride Edena ASAP. Edena takes the 4th dimension roller coaster concept to the next level. The first drop actually terrified me with its delayed somersaults into the pullout. The full inversion was completely bizarre with its combination of airtime and seat rotation, and even the brake run manages to be a better ride element than what is offered on most other roller coasters. I could go on for much longer about this ride, so I'd recommend checking out my full video on why I say Edena is the world's most insane roller coaster. It is seriously something special, and I cannot wait to go back to Japan so I can ride it some more. Also, Alan Schilke, if you're somehow watching this, congratulations, my favorite 2 roller coasters are your creations. So that will do it for my list of top 25 roller coasters. I hope my list didn't trigger you and that you did not hit the report button. Please feel free to comment below your thoughts on my list as well as your own personal list of top roller coasters if you have one. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like it and subscribe to the channel for more nerdy roller coaster content like this. I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.